There's a concept that Washington City has incrementally been grasping this power since the early 1900s, the 1930s, but it goes back further than that. The very root and foundation for them to justify themselves and to actually have the ability to continue to act as rulers and kings and Congress reign supreme is based upon the nationalization of citizenship, which was established by and through Reconstruction, and then ultimately the 14th Amendment, the forced ratification of the 14th Amendment. My name is Hutchison Birch. I'm a freeman citizen of the North Carolina American Republic, which is the de jure state of North Carolina. De jure means lawful. There's a much longer legal definition to that. It's pretty easy to find in a Black's Law Dictionary. But North Carolina American Republic is the reestablished state that was put into abeyance in 1868 by acts of Congress. The goal of North Carolina American Republic, or NCAR, is to challenge the Reconstruction Acts, which is a military usurpation through Congress to basically reestablish lawful government and constitutional law as supreme law of the land. It relates to current events because everything that we're seeing going on in politics with the federal government, them exceeding their power, the entire foundation of that is based upon the Reconstruction, because Reconstruction literally, it didn't just reconstruct the southern states, it actually reconstructed the United States as a whole. It usurped the fundamental principle of state citizenship and states' rights and replaced it with a nationalized citizenship, placing everyone under federal jurisdiction, basically turning them from a free people to a subject class of citizen. I grew up with, well, my family is an old Southern family, and I always grew up hearing about the war between the states, and my father always talked about the Constitution and constitutional principles. And in 2008, I heard Ron Paul speak, and I got involved with the GOP and the Republican Party in trying to get Ron Paul elected as president, and started participating on the county level with the county GOP. Got nominated or elected a delegate for the state convention, and I went to the state convention and I saw the usurpation of the executive committee. They just basically decided their interpretation of the law. They did what they wanted to in regard to sending Ron Paul delegates to the national convention, and it became very apparent to me that the de facto or the established political venue that's available to us, there's no remedy or recourse. It's a promise of every 2 years or every 4 years, oh, we'll get them next time. And the fundamental problem is much deeper than just electing the right person. We actually have to go back and address the issues in law and address the usurpation. It's a lot of work, but I think in the long run it will actually be less work than some of the other proposed ideas I've heard about, trying to get the Supreme Court to rehear 100 years worth of case law and overturn that. What it really comes down to is that you cannot continue to remodel and build a house that has a bad foundation. You have to address the foundational issues. You have to correct the foundation problem before you can either rebuild it or change it or really do any kind of remodel or restoration. You have to fix the problem, and I saw the problem. I finally found what I was looking for in regard to it, because I always knew there were constitutional issues and nothing ever seemed to be done about it. Just business as usual. Ignore the Constitution, ignore the people. Well, it's not a club, it's not a membership. It is actually participating in lawful government, and the duty and responsibility of a freeman or a citizen of NCAR is to actually educate themselves and understand the issues in jurisprudence. Jurisprudence is the study of the philosophy and history of law, and that is the primary responsibility. And then once you can actually grasp those particular concepts that have been around for thousands of years, then your duty is to participate and to bring that change which we seek, which is the restoration of lawful government, the restoration of the Constitution, the restoration of our states as free and independent countries, which they are, that are part of a union. I've been involved with the de facto the de facto judicial system for over a year. It started off as an implied consent DUI. I refused to submit evidence against myself. I wasn't drunk, and they arrested me for it. And I went into court challenging the jurisdiction of the state, asking them to prove that they are a lawfully created state, and they continued to refuse. I did not participate in the merits of the case at any point in time. It went from district court to superior court, and then went through basically a kangaroo trial with a de facto jury. And I appealed from that point, and now the case is in the North Carolina Court of Appeals. 11299 is the case number, 11-299. They filed a second motion to dismiss based upon the procedural technicality in the record, and they filed their response brief to my brief contemporaneously. And the primary arguments, they didn't actually answer anything. They just tried to argue that it was frivolous, that my brief was frivolous, that I brought up no points in law, and that it is a political question, which means it is something that Congress is the one that decides on whether or not it actually happened or not. Which, that's not really the question. The question isn't whether or not the 14th Amendment was ratified. The question is, did Congress have the authority to overthrow established states and issue bills of attainder to restrict people from voting, and to basically place the states back under military rule until such a time as they actually adopted an amendment that they previously rejected?
Which amendment was that?
The 14th Amendment. People would take that viewpoint that, oh, I was out drunk driving and I got caught and I'm just trying to cause trouble and all this other stuff, and that I'm being rebellious, and I mean all those things. But it's not true. I wasn't drunk, and I was just standing on my rights, and it just happened to give me an opportunity to really push the issue. And the reason why I'm pushing the issue is because I'm the father of 8 children, and I feel that I have a responsibility and a duty to not leave this mess to them. And I have to do everything that I can to bring back the fundamentals of law, the principles of law. If I don't, then it's a shirking of my duty. I think it's a disregard of my family, and it's a disregard for my forefathers. Most likely, I will have to appeal to the Supreme Court of North Carolina, and then on to the federal appellate, and then hopefully onto the Supreme Court. This might not be the case to do that. What I hope to accomplish is, if the appellate court actually takes up and actually listens and sees the rationale and jurisprudence, that they will actually give an acknowledgement that there is a conflict in law that needs to be addressed, and that they would actually say that, well, we can't necessarily address it because it's actually something that needs to be decided in a higher court, and they would recuse it to that higher court. In order for this constitutional issue to be resolved, the Supreme Court has to make a decision in regard to the constitutionality of the Reconstruction Acts, which is what was avoided and evaded, and obstruction of justice was actually done to prevent that question from being answered by the Supreme Court in 1868 and 1869. Excellent informational resource is ncrepublic.org. There is a Learn Contribute tab there. We're still updating that and working on it. There's a lot of information there already that just kind of gets someone familiarized with the issues and gives some historical documentation, different quotes from different people that were actually responsible for Reconstruction and what their intention was. You can also go to John Ainsworth's website, americasremedy.com. and contact him and get him to come out and either do a weekend seminar or even just a 2-hour seminar to just express the issues, show them, and so you can get a better grasp of the law and the issues that are actually there. And then you can also go to my blog. I do some writing on that and address the issues and go into some more depth and detail as far as conceptually what would be accomplished, and also just updates on the case, and that is restore-our-republics.blogspot.com, which is it's a Google blog spot.